Hey, welcome back, beautiful people. Today I'm going to show you 5 dubious gambits that really work even against higher rated opponents. Or in other words, 5 unsound gambits that still confuse even good players. Why are they dubious? Because obviously you are not advised to play them in classical tournaments or other serious OTB matches, and Stockfish doesn't even like them. But they work against average human beings. The first one on our list is the Fianchetto Gambit, which I popularized some months ago, beginning with the move pawn to e4. So here you're playing as black, and the move I recommended was g6. White is going to play pawn to d4, and once you see this, you immediately go pawn to f5. As you can see from the eval bar, Stockfish doesn't like this at all. But what the idea is, if white takes, you now go pawn to d5, giving them the second pawn. Are you kidding me? After pawn takes, that's when you take back with your h-pawn. And now, the top played move in the Lichess database is bishop d3, because here your opponent is attacking the undefended pawn. But the move to always remember in this position is queen d6, which I highly recommended. Why not playing bishop a5 or something else? Queen d6 kinda stops the London bishop from being developed and also protects the g6 pawn so white can't take. And from here, I recommended a very simple plan. If you watched my Fianchetto Gambit series, I have won a lot of games against titled players with this so-called Fianchetto Gambit, and it seems to be unstoppable. I'm going to leave the link to my Fianchetto Gambit playlist in the comment section down below. So let's continue. White plays knight f3, the top played move, and now you go bishop g4, pinning that knight to the queen. After h3, you just leave your bishop there, knowing if they take, they are going to lose their rook. So the move to play is knight c6, attacking this poor d4 pawn. Most of your opponents would defend that pawn, and this is when you play pawn to e5. You see, we are following the exact plan that I recommended, and this works to our advantage. The eval bar has started going up slowly but sure. White usually takes, and then you take back with your knight. Now putting more pressure on this f knight, and also attacking the light squared bishop, they play bishop e2, and this is where I advised to oversimplify the game by taking on f3. Of course, castle long is also possible, but you see, the goal is to oversimplify your chess if you want to be winning more games. At this point, you can even play bishop h6 or just put your king to safety first, because this defends the d5 pawn, which was being attacked twice. My opponents play bishop e3, after which I go bishop h6. You see, everything is moving according to our plan. Black should take, otherwise, if black castles short, we mess up his pawn structure. So they have to, do something about this, after which it now makes sense to take with our knight. Although we always want to develop our knight to e7, then knight f5 later on. But this is even faster, because after castle short, we can now go knight f5. Mission accomplished. And what we did here is we opened up the king side deliberately, and also the queen side, which left white's king to be vulnerable at an expense of a pawn. So the point with the Fianchetto Gambit is you give your opponent some advantage in the opening stage, which they can hardly convert, and after they fail, you get it back so easily in the end game. You can see the eval bar is now up and on our favor. From here, you can shift all your pieces on the king side and advance your g-pawn to break open the king side. Dubious Gambit number 2. It doesn't even have a name, but this arises from the Dutch defense where black plays f5 after d4. So what you do is you sacrifice your e-pawn. Yeah, one might argue this is the Staunton Gambit, but we have another idea. After pawn takes, you sacrifice your f-pawn, which most of your opponents will take. By the way, that's the top played move in the Lichess database. This is known as the Staunton Gambit accepted, and the main theory is to take back. Stockfish likes this. You can tell from the eval bar, the game is almost equal. But here is where you go crazy. Instead of taking back, you continue with my elbow gambit and play pawn to c3. Yes, allowing black to take on g2. Who am I? Now Stockfish gives black a negative 1.2, which means white has some chances to get back to the game if and only if bishop takes g2 is played. But you know how crazy Casper is. Rather than taking back, the move I recommend is you save your bishop, because your rook sucks. And what this does, especially in Bullet and Blaze, it creates an impression as if you blundered your rook, which most of your opponents are going to take and promote into a donkey if they want. But hey, this is when you can easily go queen h5 check, and after g6, you mate into like this. Now see, after f takes g2 and bishop d3, you will see that most of your advanced opponents are more likely not going to take, because this is very easy to see. And so the move that they may try here is pawn to g6, just stopping you from going queen h5. But now it is time for you to grab this pawn, because the threat is real. So the move I highly recommend is queen c2. That's how you get back this pawn and you will be fine. The point is, if black goes ahead and take the rook just like before, still there's a mate in 2 like this. Right, let's go a step further. What if they play pawn to g6 and after you go queen c2, they don't take? Another move that you will see them playing is knight f6, by the way, but you still have a mate in 2 even after that. So at this point, you will see them making moves like pawn to d5, trying to create a breather. And finally, this is when you can take on g2. And here you just gave up 2 pawns, by the way. Yet Stockfish doesn't think you are losing, because you have so many open lines and you are going to develop your minor pieces and castle long, then start attacking on the side of the board where there are few pawns, the king side. So position here is like negative 1.8, which is holdable. Dubious Gambit number 3. Now we are talking about the Grob opening beginning with g4. As you can see, Stockfish already gives black a negative 1.0, as if white has already lost a free pawn. That's what this means. So this is definitely not a sound opening to play in classical chess or in other OTB tournament games, but it works. In Rapid, Blitz, and Bullet, you can have some good games. In fact, depending on how good you are in tactics, you can even try it in classical chess. I mean, Magnus would play this against me in a classical match and probably still win. d5 is what everybody plays, and now you go bishop g2. So you're just sacrificing your g-pawn, which most of your opponents are going to take. You can see that's the top played move in the Leech's database. And now you simply go pawn to c4. If black takes, you're going to take the b7 pawn and they're going to lose their rook. So they won't do that. The top played move here, if you check the Leech's database, is pawn to c6. They're trying to hold on to their dear pawn, which you take immediately, and after pawn takes, you now go knight c3, attacking this pawn twice. Again, your argument is, if pawn to d5 is played, you're simply going to take on b7 and win the rook. I'm sure they're not going to do that. They play pawn to e6, which is the top played move in the Leech's database, as you can see, and this loses the game on the spot. You see this bishop right here? It's dead. You now go queen a4 check. And after knight c6, you grab that for free. Bingo! But you see, the Grob opening can also be a decent opening, even if black tries to refute it somehow after pawn to c4, and say c6, then cd, cd, and knight c3. What advanced players play here is the move knight f6, so that this time you don't win their bishop for free. But even against this, you can just go queen b3, attacking 2 pawns. And now this is when they play pawn to e6, just giving up the b7 pawn. And now material is equal. This can be anyone's game with perfect play. You just ensure that you are ahead in development. So the Grob opening is not really a Dubious Gambit at 2200 level and below. Dubious Gambit number 4, the Wild Museo Gambit, beginning with pawn to e4, and after e5, you go pawn to f4, which is the King's Gambit. After pawn takes, you play knight f3, and you can see in the Leech's database, pawn to g5 is the top played move. Everybody wants to hold on to that f4 pawn. Now this is when you go bishop c4. Yes, allowing black to advance their g-pawn, which they do. You can see in the Leech's database. This is all theory and very much playable even at the top level. You can check the master's database. But at this point, this is where you start getting crazy, like a madman, beginning with castle shot, sacrificing your knight. And to make it worse, you don't even take back on f3 like what everybody does. You just develop your queen's knight, which drops the eval bar even further, because Stockfish doesn't like this. Now wait a second. The thing with these dubious gambits is you give your opponents some advantage in the opening stage, which they fail to convert. And then you take back that advantage. So it's like mocking your opponent or teasing them. It only takes one mistake for their position to crumble down. And this is what we do in these dubious gambits, giving away some opening advantage which they can't easily convert. Like in this position, you see, the correct move, according to Stockfish, is the unimaginable Queen G5, which maintains the advantage, but even then, you can just take on F3, and after Queen C5 check, you go King H1, after Queen takes C4, you go Pawn to B3, and say after something like Queen E6, you go Knight D5, and you continue playing your chess. Position will be like negative 2.0, which is holdable. But what you're going to see most of your opponents doing, you can see in the Lichess database, is taking the second pawn on G2, which looks more natural. But that throws away all the advantage and puts white on top of things. So you begin with bishop takes f7, sacrificing your second piece, and after king takes, you go rook takes f4 check. If knight f6 is played, you have pawn to d5, a more straightforward move, but you can also try knight d5, putting more pressure on this knight. There's nothing they can do. They play bishop g7, after which you can go queen h5 check, and whatever black does, you're just going to grab that knight and maybe end up causing more pain. Say queen e7, you just go d4, because what else? Pawn takes, bishop h6, and there'll be a mate in 3 in this position. After f takes g2 and bishop takes f7, check, then pop and pop. If black doesn't play knight f6 and say they go king e8, here there's a mate in 2 which I would love you guys to find. Leave your answers in the comment section down below, and hey, remember to share this video because that's how you support this channel, like for real, and also subscribe if you haven't already. Right, dubious gambit number 5, the unknown double fianchetto gambit, which I just started working on to improve it. You begin with g3 and the top played response is d5. Now you go b3. One might argue this is the Hungarian opening. As you can see in the Lichess database, the top played move by black is pawn to e5 because they just took all the center. Now this is when you may play our reverse fianchetto gambit, now with white pieces, beginning with move pawn to f4. After they take, you now go pawn to d4. Just like you saw what we were doing with black pieces. If black takes, this is when you take back with your h pawn. And now they are going to play something like bishop d6, attacking your undefended pawn on g3 like we saw in the fianchetto gambit. Once again, bishop f4 is playable, but the move you want to play is queen d3, stopping this light squared bishop from coming to f5 and also defending your g3 pawn. By the way, this move teams up with the h rook to target the h7 pawn, which is why most of your opponents will play something like g6 or pawn to h6, but any advanced player here would play something like knight f6, developing a piece in a defensive way as well. Whenever you see this happening, just go bishop g5. You pin that knight. If h6 comes, just like in the normal fianchetto gambit, you know black can't take your bishop due to rook takes h8 check. So you just continue with your normal development, knight c3, attacking the d5 pawn, which they will most of the times defend like this. And now you go pawn to e4, exactly the same things that we do in the normal fianchetto gambit. This is what I'm now developing, you guys, and I'm sure I'm going to be winning a lot of games because these dubious gambits are just crazy. So the idea is to go bishop h6 in the long run, put my king's knight on f4 through e2 like this, castle long given a chance, and then just break open the center. For example, d takes e4 is what most people would play here, and then I would take back with my knight, now putting a big question mark on these two highlighted minor pieces. Bishop e7 has to be played, after which I take, and after bishop takes, I now go castle long, defending my pawn like this, and after castle short, this is when I start playing an open game. Bishop h3 is okay, challenging the light squared bishop, and then sooner or later I'm going to put my king's knight on f4, start pushing my g pawn, and just break open the king side like that to quickly mate my opponent with all of my pieces. So once again, this is a strategic opening, you guys, a dubious gambit that will confuse most of your opponents. Let me know what you think about these gambits in the comment section down below. As for me and my family, we love this and we'll continue playing them till the end of time. Now, time for you to go and check out my new E5 defense course, which I have also linked in the comment section down below. And I'm glad to say, so far it has received a lot of attention and people are getting it like crazy. So it's an opening response that you try against White's E4 opening. You're going to learn how to play against the Scotch, the Royal Pace, the Bishop's opening, 3 Knights opening, the 4 Knights game, the Vienna game, even the Italian game. So it's the complete E5 defense course that I just launched with my team. You better go and check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.